And welcome back to a very special episode of Survivor Hot Takes. It is me, Coach Drew, who, once again, it is coming home. Just remember that tomorrow when at like 9:50, 10:50, when it says Marianne won, you'll know that it's finally home for the first time since season 4. Joined as always by Emily. Emily, how are you doing since yesterday?
God, I'm so excited. This is like the best day of my life because we're surrounded by so many amazing people today. So I'm just thriving as always.
So what this is going to be is more of a panel to discuss the season right before the finale. I feel like most of our minds are kind of made up on how the season has gone. I don't think that there's anything crazy that could happen tomorrow that could potentially change our minds on how the season goes. But let's just say right now we're good. So going from where you are on my screen, we have Cindy. Cindy, once again, all-time Survivor hot take.
I assume that my all-time one is that I don't think Tony should have won either season, and I don't like him.
That's not the one I was expecting, but all right.
Sarah's excited though, you can tell.
We have Brian.
Hello.
Hot take.
My all-time Survivor hot take, I believe, is that the edit is always correct.
Ooh, wait, what do you mean by that?
I mean that the way the show is often portrayed, I tend to believe their story as opposed to every castaway's like original perspective, because oftentimes people make opinions without really knowing the whole thing. And I feel like the editors kind of know everything that's going on. And even if like points of people's games aren't exactly showcased as much as we would like to see, I feel like they get all the main points that we really like need to know. So
like, and in order to like to kind of paint a solid winner picture, you mean?
Not just in case of the winner, but just in kind of everyone, you know.
So Jonathan's actually a jerk. Yeah. It's not just because what the editors are telling us. It's because of Jonathan. John Buckley.
Hey, mine has not changed. Mine will never change. And my hot take is that Natalie Bolton is the best one-time player of Survivor in history. Point blank in the period. Done.
Josh.
Yeah, my Survivor hot take is that Eric Reichenbach did not make a dumb move at the final 5 moment in Micronesia when he gave his necklace to Natalie. In fact, Natalie convincing him to make this move is much worse than Eric's decision to take off the necklace, and the dumbest move of the game. This was not planned, but I'm glad that we went back to back.
Gia?
Could I have gone before him? Can we go back in time? Like,
no, you have to wait your turn now.
Dare I say, helping Suri advance in the game is never a dumb move. So letting Suri do what she needs to do is always a good idea, personally. But that's not my hot take. My ultimate Survivor hot take is that, I mean, I feel like I say this every podcast, but it's always true. Survivor Fiji is a great season, and Dreams was correct in going back on the car deal. Those are my point 1 and point 2 of my hot take.
It's coming home. Hopi?
So I am a baby Survivor fan, so I have not seen all the seasons. So I'll go with my hot take from last season. And it is that the edit did Heather dirty, and that she is more of a chaos lord than the edit let on Emily come at me.
I can come at you in so many ways. But I'm going to support you as if you're my best friend.
And Sarah.
Well, you know mine. China is overrated, and I feel like it's a mid-season and not one of the top 10 that most people put it in.
Cindy, you let me down. I was hoping that y'all would click on that, but I mean, I know you're
Mid is a little too high for it, but yeah.
I agree.
So everyone, thank you once again for coming back. Thank you for coming on the show at multiple times throughout the last year and a half. I've had a lot of fun with all of you, and we're just going to go right into 42. And I'll start with this. Unless something crazy happens tomorrow, and even if something crazy happens tomorrow, something crazy to me is Jonathan winning. I'm just going to say that now so that I don't have to say that phrase every time. If Jonathan wins, that's something crazy. Even if Jonathan wins tomorrow, I feel like in my head, the season only drops down maybe a couple. But I think that because of everything that we've been given, based off of everything that we saw in last season, I think that this season has done a great job at overcoming a lot of the obstacles that 41 put in the way. You know, all these twists, you know, the editing of certain players, especially if Marianne or Lindsay win, I think they would have fixed the editing problem-ish that they had with Erica in 41. I've actually been frustrated that I couldn't watch every episode live this season. You know, I made sure to avoid spoilers because I actually cared what was going on. And thank you to everyone that, like, before you texted me said, hey, have you seen it yet? Before I tell you this crazy shit that just happened.
Avoiding my texts.
Yeah, avoiding all of your texts. Trust me. So I think that as of right now, I have 42 as like my 13th ranked season, and I think that it could only go up a lot. I don't think it could drop a lot, mainly because I am firmly convinced that there is no way that Jonathan can win, but I feel like this is how people thought with, I don't know, like Aubrey or Russell Hantz or anyone like that, where it's like, oh, there's no way. It's like, no, but this time it's real. I think there's no way that Jonathan loses. Emily, we'll start with you, and then we'll just start the shit.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I guess, like, for me, this was probably one of the best seasons, and I really love it because you guys all know, like, a lot of my Survivor journey, we've talked about it a lot, where, like, I jumped on as a literal infant, and I loved it up until I went to high school and thought I was too cool, but I was so wrong, and I came on back, and I mainly got back in whenever I was watching, you know, like, throughout COVID. And while I was watching that, like, I was able to watch everything back to back, but like all that information was like readily available to me, you know, but like being able to watch two really interesting seasons with a lot of interesting twists kind of back to back was incredible. For me, I would probably rank it, I guess, in my top 15. I think just for nostalgia purposes, a lot of the old school ones will stay a little bit higher up. But I agree with you, Drew. I think that just, if we're focusing specifically on the edit, I definitely know for sure that I don't think that Jonathan this wouldn't be his ultimate win. And even though we've talked a lot about how Romeo could twist it, you know, in order to assure that he could be a solid winner, I don't think that's what the edit's showing right now. So if I had to rank it, I would think that my top three would be like Marianne, Mike, and then Lindsay, I think. But I don't know. Again, like, it's anyone's game, which is so cool.
Why do you hate women? I'm just saying. Who did we ask that to?
Get out of here.
No, all right. So I'm going to start with Gia first, just because it is coming home, and I want to get your opinion on Marianne up to this point. You know, I would raise your hand if you know, biased or not, do you think that Marianne is going to win tomorrow? So unanimous. All right. So Gia, what have you seen about Marianne this season, you know, before we even get to the last episode, that may have, you know, swayed you in one way or the other? And do you think that she would be a great winner in the event that she does win tomorrow?
First of all, haha, everyone, I'm the favorite. Second of all, I would be I do agree. I think we have some really good winner options here, even if we didn't get a Marianne win. However, it's coming home tomorrow, manifesting it. I think we are going to get our second Black woman winner in 20 years, almost 20 years to the day that Vecepia took it home the first time. I have faith in Marianne. And I was thinking about this a lot in kind of our final five that we have right now. And I am in agreement that I think because of the fact that it's going to be a final three, I think Lindsay, Mike, and Marianne, one of them is going to be in the final three. So one of them is going to win, even if they are sitting next to like Jonathan and Romeo. I think they're kind of the top three by a large margin. So I am pretty confident that one of those is going to be the winner. The reason why I'm most confident in it being Marianne, she had a very strong finish in the penultimate episode leading into the finale, very strong showing, but her showing throughout the whole season has been pretty strong. And I was looking back on some of my notes for the podcast I do about Survivor 42 and kind of seeing kind of the episode progressions and the narratives that were being told. And I feel like the editors have done this thing with Marianne in particular, that they've been dropping hints about how smart she is throughout the whole series or throughout the whole season in a way that I feel like they have not really done with the other 4 players that are left in the game. Marianne has these little nuggets of wisdom that they want us to see throughout the whole season. And she has this gift of explaining complicated feelings and emotions and decisions that you make in Survivor based on the position you're in, such as how she was talking about how playing from the bottom is much more difficult and you have to really think about it in a different way than if you are in a very safe position. And that's just one example of the gifts Marianne has in the game. But I feel like the editors have been dropping evidence about how smart Marianne is and how good of a final tribal council performance she can give in the season. And they've been doing it throughout without making it so obvious that Marianne is the winner. So that is kind of where I am at. And I feel like the other players have either got a fall from grace at it, like what we saw with Jonathan and Romeo, because Romeo had a really good pre-merge game that they wanted to make us see. And even someone like Mike or Lindsay have had their little fall moments, but I feel like they've had their lull periods too. Like Lindsay really came into her own in the merge. But Marianne has been a consistent presence, whether it was for her strategy or just her overall personality. So I have a lot of faith in Marianne, and I think the editors want us to, they've been hinting that Marianne is a force to be reckoned with going to the finale for a long time, even if you don't pick it up right away. So I'm pretty confident. And if Marianne is the winner, I think she is a very strong winner. I'm very excited to see how the finale plays out and how she is able to maneuver her way into the final tribal council if she gets there. So I'm excited to see it. And I think the end game it is very important for me to make like a official ranking, but I think she's going to be one of our better, like more fluid winners. And I'm very excited to see if we get a Marianne win, how her win plays into like the larger Survivor canon. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah,
Sarah,
that's beautiful, Gia.
Yeah, Sarah, as our queen of power rankings, in the event that let's go with our lowest, we think either Romeo or Jonathan. Let's just say Jonathan. Is there anybody on the season where if they win that you would rank them as a lower tier winner? Or do you think that because of how amazing the season has been, how amazing the gameplay has been, do you think that no matter who wins this season, there is, I don't want to say merit because I think everyone deserves some type of merit, but do you rank them higher than a lot of these classic winners, no matter who it is, because of the gameplay on the season?
Well, I definitely think that they would be pretty low tier winners because, you have like Romeo, who you haven't seen much strategy and gameplay at the merge. And then you have Jonathan, who's just been winning challenges. And so just because it's been a great season, if we don't see their presence making moves and being like involved in the game, it doesn't make them a good winner. But yeah, it's really interesting because there's so much behind the scenes that we don't know about, like the Idol Nullifier that Omar had. Like all of this is happening that we didn't get to see. So, there's probably a lot more to their games that we're not seeing, but there's a reason that it's not showing it. And it's probably because they're not winners,
Yeah. And I would say that, I'm the one that sits here every week and says, oh, every winner deserves their win. No matter who, no matter how horrible they are, no matter if they came back from edge of extinction or whatever the case is, I would say that in 42 seasons, if Jonathan were to somehow win, I wouldn't be pissed because I don't get pissed about this kind of stuff, but I'd be plenty peeved at least just because I feel like at that point the editors tried to trick us by saying, oh yeah, we're just going to portray this guy as a fool for most of the merge, only to have him win. As much as people want to shit on Erica for her win, and I think it was warranted, she was never really played like a fool. In fact, during pre-merge, you have confessionals from other people saying, let's get rid of Erica, she's a threat. So I don't think that, I think that if Jonathan were to win at this point, it would be at least semi-frustrating for me, but I would still respect him as a winner. Emily,
I just want to add on to what you're saying, because I think that like you're bringing up such a great point, is that like the beauty of this edit, which I think really separates the variety of the other seasons that we've watched, is that it's really given us perfectly imperfect like castaways, or like, perfectly quirky castaways, I guess. Like, so we've seen an uprise and a downfall, or like a high and a low for every single person. While we may not have seen every single person holistically, right, we've seen them we've seen the struggle, and we've also seen them be able to go through their own version of challenges. So for Jonathan, it's been the fact that he hasn't been able to eat his 87 eggs every single day, and do you know how many calories it takes for him to breathe, right? And then like Romeo, he really struggled with like that being able to feel included, especially after he was able to make it to the merge, right? Marianne also kind of went through the same struggle, is just being able to feel included, but also knowing that she's born to stand out, so every single one of these people have had like a rise and a fall, which I don't think that we've seen in every single season. So I think that it's really cool because it's a more holistic win, in my opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, so before I get to Cindy with my question, I'm so excited to hear what she has to say. Raise your hand if you would be annoyed if Jonathan won. Cindy, why?
Oh God, how long do you want me to rant about?
Not long.
Okay. Well, because he seems okay. No, I'm not going to be mean. Based on the problematic tribal council, I think it would be really discouraging for women and people of color to see. First of all, it was already discouraging seeing that tribal council and having seen this Golden God edit leading up to that, and then to see how that played through in that tribal council was really upsetting. And then to see sort of from there him still kind of be talking down to women and not trusting better strategists than him, and what some might call a misogynistic manner, not that I'm calling it that. I would personally be extremely discouraged to see that be something that even the jury like felt like, hey, A+, like the game of Survivor just really brings out the misogyny and the racism in all of us. So let's just like keep that going. I would be upset with that. But Andrew is laughing so much. I would also be upset with the way that the edit has sort of completely like buried him, and not shown us why the jury would find it redeeming, because I'm sure that there are redeeming qualities to Jonathan beyond he needs 80,000 calories in a day. But every time I've seen Jonathan, it's like misogyny, racism, or talking about food, and I can't relate to him on a level. I would love to eat 80,000 calories a day. Don't get me wrong, but also not 80 billion eggs. I would go with like chocolate cake or something.
Or get abused by your father at 3 years old, make you climb up a mountain, or whatever the hell that was. Ryan, as the edit person, do you think that, going based off the fact that you said that the edit never lies, do you think that that's how it was for Jonathan out there? Do you think it's how it was for Romeo out there, where, in Romeo's case, a lot of us were saying Romeo is definitely on the top of his OG tribe, and going into the merge, he was a front runner, moving forward, and then kind of that fall from grace. And with Jonathan, it's like, oh yes, Golden God, he's doing all this stuff, and now, America doesn't like him. Do you think that that's how it actually was on in real time, or do you think that when the merge happened, the editors had to start focusing on others and they had to kind of sacrifice a couple of their favorites from the pre-merge?
I mean, I do believe that that is actually how it went down. I mean, specifically with Jonathan, we do see him as a very integral part of the Taku tribe. We see him really close with Omar. We see him really close with Lindsay. We do see him kind of grinding gears in Marianne, but I feel like she was kind of unpopular in that opinion to like be annoyed by him. And we see even confessionals of Omar talking about how he's getting kind of frustrated by Marianne. But then once the merge hit, and then obviously the tribal council happened, I think it all just went downhill from there. I don't think he was like necessarily hated by the other castaways up to that point, but I think after that kind of just went downhill. Obviously, the lack of food has taken a huge toll on him. We see him like as the days go on, he keeps talking more and more about food, with the whole fishing net incident, and Drea saying, basically like, I understand that, he needs to eat a lot, but that it's inexcusable for him to be acting like this. And same thing with Romeo. I mean, we always hear Romeo like, on the early days of Eco, we hear him so much talking about how he's in the middle of the tribe, how he's working with everybody, and it's kind of like his choice to choose what side he wants to go with. And I feel like once you get to the merge, he kind of just fizzles down. I think I read an exit interview with Drea where basically she was saying once Romeo got to the merge, he kind of just gave up, which is why she didn't include him on that initial group of like 8 that was formed when Rocksroy was on exile. Then we basically see Romeo kind of just fade into the background, not really give his opinion on anything strategically. He's kind of left out, and he's portrayed as paranoid by his old tribe mates, which leads me to believe that there's something that probably happened within that time. So whether Romeo gave up or not, I don't know, but I do think that he was right about that.
That's beautiful, Ryan. And also, like, to kind of add off of that, like, there's a lot more to Romeo's story than like what the edit was even able to add on. So like we even saw a piece where, I listened to a few interviews where they said, I guess like Romeo was really gunning for Chanel, or they like Romeo was trying to build Chanel or bring Chanel into his circle, and he told Chanel that she was going to be the target, which is why people chose not to trust him, which kind of pushed him off of the edge. Am I right by saying that?
I think so. I mean, I haven't read that, but I probably believe that. Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of like what pushed him away from everyone and put him in a really tough spot for the rest of the season.
Josh, moving on to Josh. You start your hot takes with the biggest hot take, John Buckley, am I right? Where you think that it was a bad move on Natalie Bolton's part in Micronesia. So going based off of that, your opinion of the Final 5, who has had the worst move of the season up to this point?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think here. The first thing that comes to mind immediately is Jonathan's strategy to target Drea and then use Marianne as the backup vote when Lindsay is trying to reason with him and tell him, that he's not thinking this through logically, and he's just talking over her. Again, some might say misogynistically. I'll leave others to judge whether or not that is the case. But I think that's like that as far as what we've shown, that just seems like the dumbest strategy moment of the season off the top of my mind of the Final 5. I think, one thing I want to say though, too, that we were talking about Jonathan and Romeo is just, I don't think it's a coincidence that the people with the least amount of body fat out there have just tanked post-merge. And it's different in this new era of Survivor. I mean, Romeo, he looks very different from Jonathan. Jonathan has, a full another human's worth of muscles on top of Romeo's body. But they both have extremely low fat body fat percentage. And I think that like your body goes into starvation mode when that happens. And so I just think that like their abilities to play the game and, probably also like treat people well in Jonathan's case, probably, goes like your capacity just is diminished in a lot of ways, socially, strategically, mentally, physically. And so I just don't think it's a coincidence that we see both of them. So like their stock just completely tank post-merge in this new era of Survivor where they're not really fed much. Doesn't excuse anything that Jonathan's done that is problematic. But I think that it's not a coincidence.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, they keep referencing the fact that he's hangry I hate that phrase. And the last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it, but like, also, can we focus on Omer and everyone else? I'm done with this guy. Hopi, as the newest person, as the person that has watched the least amount of Survivor, where do you see this season? I don't know exactly how many seasons you have seen up to this point, but is it more, would you feel like you would watch this season more than a lot of the other seasons that you've watched so far? Or do you think this is kind of middling, you're just kind of forced to watch it because you're friends with Emily? Or do you think that this season, will live up, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, unlike other seasons, which I'll talk about later?
Yeah, to answer your question of seasons, I think I've watched Africa, season 41, Tony's season, and this one. So,
and you watched Pearl Islands. I was with you. I made you.
Oh, I didn't finish Pearl Islands. I also didn't finish the one where they had split up into. I just haven't gotten a chance to. One
don't
where
worry, we like Marianne, and she didn't finish Tokenshin, so like, it's all good.
Mood. Yeah, I think that this definitely surpasses my expectations of what I've seen from older seasons. In the sense that I think that Survivor is adapting to what society talks about or what is important to society. And in the past 2 seasons, I think it's really discussing inequities within different people groups. And the show is using its platform to show these inequities and call them out, and as well as playing the game. And I think that kind of having those and starting those conversations and showing that in this kind of perfect brood control, there's still all of the exactly. It's a control, but it's not a control, right? It shows that. What am I trying to say? It shows that there's so much more than what meets the eye to a person and to what they're capable of. And I have been a Marianne ride or die from before the season happened. She's my winner pick. And what I liked about her...
I saw.
I cannot overstate how much I love Marianne. My favorite thing about it is it's showing underdogs being able to be capable of so much more. Like Erica. I saw Erica making moves, and it wasn't the traditional way that you might have seen in old Survivor, but the moves were still there, and that's what I really appreciate about kind of how the game is changing and formatting as we continue to evolve with it.
John Buckley, I had a different question, but I have to bring this up. Do you agree with this ranking?
Which ranking?
This ranking right on your screen.
No, I don't.
What's wrong with this? In your opinion, what is wrong with this ranking?
Lindsay's too low. I think, and maybe that's me being a feminist, but Jonathan made like a lot of mistakes, and I feel like Romeo just hasn't stepped up to the plate. At least Lindsay's swinging. So like, I feel like maybe, Lindsay and Mike in my brain go back and forth. I do think Marianne is playing the best game, obviously, as we all do. But Mike and Lindsay go back and forth in my brain. So if Marianne sucks at making fire and it's Mike and Lindsay in the top 3, then it'll be an interesting FTC. But I think if we lose 2 of the 3 before Final Tribal, I don't think it's going to be a massive fight.
Yeah.
Granted, I have a different point of view.
No, I think that you're so right. And I think that the big thing that we're missing too is like there's been such a feature, especially in the preview, of like Lindsay doing this mad dash for what we think is going to be that advantage they also featured in 41. So I feel like that advantage and Lindsay's desperation to have that advantage is really going to play a crucial part in what place she's going to be able to make in the finals.
Mm-hmm. Fully that.
And I agree. And I think that, I've said this a few times within the last couple of weeks. I think that Jonathan and Romeo have a big hill to climb just because there are 3, from how I'm perceiving it, 3 better competitors overall. Everyone has talked about Marianne and the fact that she, one thing that we've always been shown anytime Marianne has gone to tribal council is she knows how to talk. So I think that she has that going. And I sat on here yesterday and said, even if no one's going to go up there and ask her what her big move is because everyone saw it. No one's going to ask her about her physical game because it doesn't matter. I feel like with social game, not only will she talk about the fact she played from the bottom, but I think that she'll also talk about the fact that she knows how to talk to people, especially at Tribal Council, where every time she's asked a question, she knows how to articulate what she wants to say. I feel like even in situations where she's not in trouble, which is a lot of them, she still comes off as not being overly passive or even passive in general. I think that the problem that a lot of other people are going to have is, and this is my fear for Mike, and I want anyone's opinion at this point. My opinion on Mike is, and I said this yesterday and I said this last week, I feel like Mike is better coach. And when I say that, I mean, I feel like Mike portrays himself, and I think it's warranted, as this guy that's loyal, and I do think he's building all these actual bonds with these people. I don't think that it's being fake. I think the problem is he keeps cutting these people off, which are also mostly warranted. But I fear that when he sits at Final Tribal, he might, instead of saying, "Yeah, I did that, I did this," he's going to say, "Oh yeah, I played the loyalty card all the way to the end. I was loyal to everyone, blah blah blah," and the jury's going to sit there and say, "Well, no, you weren't. You actually did this." And so that my fear for Mike is, because I like Mike, and I wouldn't be bothered if he won. I'm just afraid that he's going to go up there and be preachy instead of saying, "Hey, yeah, I screwed a lot of y'all over, but this is why I did it." Emily, you can chime in, and then anyone else can chime in after that.
I just got words about it because Mike was my winner pick from the start, and so I'm really glad that he made it as far as he did. Like we all talked about that a lot, and I do think that he is a very, very personable type of person. Like, and I think that should he make it to the final three, his biggest asset is also his strength. So being able to recognize like, yes, I recognize that I hurt your feelings when I did this, but this is why I did this. And and I think that he's able to give like a different, like dad-esque perspective, where he's very gentle and a good listener, knows how to relate to people and not project and come off aggressive. So I think that that's really going to work more so in his favor if he makes it to the final three. What does everyone else think?
Yeah, go.
I love Mike, but like because of how a messy player he is, like not because I think he's winning. I adore just how messy and flawed of a game he's playing. I think he has some good points. I thought if Marianne didn't pull off the plurality vote that she did this episode, he was the best player of that episode with telling Jonathan and Marianne about Lindsay's idol. I think that was a fantastic move on his end, but it's those moments of brilliance. And then he has the moments where he's taking things personal, like Chanel voting for Mike when Mike also voted for Chanel, or him taking out Hai because of at least what the edit wants us to believe is like a lie on Omar's end that doesn't really add up in the grand scheme of things, or at least not at that point. But he's making it work for him. And I love seeing a flawed player play a very messy game. It's very entertaining to me. So I would not be upset at a Mike win, but I think he has a bit of an uphill battle to get there. I would love to see him make a final Tribal Council speech, though. I feel like I will be thoroughly entertained.
I just need the accent. I love the accent.
I would die for him. Can I ask you guys one other question, kind of while we're talking about flawed gameplay? I know that we talked a little bit about how Mike has a flawed gameplay and how the editors are making it look like a few other characters or castaways are like starting to kind of reel it back and how they're starting to fall, right? And a lot of us have all agreed like unanimously that Marianne is like the projected winner pick, right? Do we think that she has a flawed gameplay? Are there any pieces of her gameplay that you think that were not as strong as they could have been?
Yeah, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just think, honestly, I'll just say this, put this out right now. I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash. I am expecting Marianne to win tomorrow because of how the edit's been going. But honestly, I don't think I would be too high on her as a winner, just simply because she hasn't really had much agency. I feel like she's just being strung along by whatever more majority alliance wants to use her as a number. And I feel like she kind of just goes that way. And then we see her in confessionals kind of just complaining about how she's on the bottom and how she doesn't want to seem like a goat that's being herded, how she's being used. And we did see her, I will say, I will give her a lot of credit for last episode with the Omar move. That was a great move on her part. But I feel like she hasn't actively done enough to like accelerate her own game, where I feel like she's just relying on other people to get farther. I feel like the reason why she's never actually voted out, even though she's always brought up as a target, is because there is always someone bigger to take out in front of her. There's always a bigger fish to fry. And I feel like it's never really been her time, because it's like, well, we don't need to worry about Marianne right now. So I don't know. That's just what I think.
Over to there being bigger targets is, I don't know, a combination of like shield theory or social gameplay. Additionally, I believe she is tied for the most correct votes of the season of anyone. And you don't do that by accident. That requires an amount of like social strategy and in the know that she quite clearly has. Just because you're not the one that's like acting like a puppet master doesn't mean that you don't have agency. The votes are still going ways that she wants. It's just that she's not the one that's going into her confessionals going, hee, I tricked them, which usually is a bad sign.
Yeah, it's also...
anyone answer this question first, and then, Josh, you just answer the question and then...
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of combinations where Marianne could win unanimously. Could you imagine, just right now, 24 hours from now, or whatever it is, Marianne giving a final tribal council speech, how passionate she gets, how clear and like, articulate she is. Like, she is such a good public speaker. I mean, I went to seminary. Okay. I like Marianne, who is a seminarian. I know you get kind of training in that, but what she is working with is not something that you can train. Like, she is a dynamic speaker, and she's given a lot of passionate speeches. So, I mean, we've seen the people who've, we've seen people win unanimously with very passionate speeches coming from the heart. And I don't think Marianne's going to have any problem with that. So I hope that answers Adam's question. So I don't really even think it comes down to combination. I think it's going to be a little bit more just about how much she can really own her game, project self-awareness, and speak passionately, and pick up maybe the stray votes that she wouldn't get in this case. But I just also want to chime in. I'm with Cindy here. I think that, I think that Marianne's game is great. I think in this new era of Survivor that is fast paced, the monsters coming right for you, always right at your back. And it's dumb to be somebody who's overly controlling in this game. Honestly, like, we see Hai go out, we see Drea go out, we see Omar go out, boom, 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 back to back to back. And that's how you lose the game, is by having too much control. Instead, align yourself with a group of people who will make sure you don't get voted out throughout the game. You don't have to be in control of who goes home. This is kind of also the game that Mike and Lindsay are both also playing, which is why I think they have shots to win, is they always made sure they weren't going to be the ones going home. And, they didn't have to vote out every specific person they wanted each tribal council. And that's how you make it to the end. I mean, I feel like that's how Erica made it to the end as well last season. And I think that to be somebody who always has to be out in front and be this obvious, like, big threat winner, I think it's really hard to play that kind of game now in this new era of Survivor, where, again, things are very fast paced. And also there's so many twists and turns, which this is where I'll say at the end here too. When Marianne, was in trouble, or when she needed to make the big moves, she did. I mean, not only did she do that this last tribal council, which is great timing right towards the end. She also at that tribal council with Drea, and the strategy of that tribal council is overshadowed by how powerful, that tribal council was outside of the game. But, Drea, like, I don't think Marianne would have gone home if everything would have just gone to plan, where Drea plays her idol. Then Marianne would have stood up and played her idol, right? And it would have been another big moment where she would have saved herself as well. So I just think Marianne has put herself in a great position to never be the one to go home. And I think that's, something that we got to reevaluate how we're ranking winners if we're not counting that as a, top quality in Survivor.
And I think that, and I mentioned this yesterday, I know people are very torn on the 26-day thing. One of the things I will give credit to it for is, and I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword, 26 days means that you have to just go out there and go balls to the wall. We're just playing straight strategy. we're playing straight strategy. We've seen from 2 seasons that it's not still just straight strategy, but people feel more obligated to make these big moves because the game is so fast. And I feel like that's a benefit to a player like, I'm going to say, Marianne and Romeo in this situation, because we get confessionals from Romeo and Marianne at different points throughout the merge where it's like, hey, these big people are going against each other. We came in at the bottom. The fact that Marianne and Romeo are both at the bottom and have been at the bottom since the merge happened is a testament to their games, because they were able to read the room and say, hey, we were on the bottom, or we're on the bottom here. All of these people are taking each other out. Yes, they might get pissed at us for a vote or two high with Romeo or things like that, but we're never going to be the real target, because people are always going to be seeing, hey, this person needs to go, or, oh, Drea needs to go because of this, or Hyde needs to go because of this, or Omer just got blown up at our last tribal where for Drea left, so Omer needs to go. When realistically, if she hadn't done that, I still think Omer would be going into the final. But because she did that, people became aware of the fact that, hey, now Omer is a big threat too. So if you're Marianne or Romeo, you're kind of sitting there like, oh, okay, that's another shield for me. I'm going to be here after tomorrow because he's going to go. And now all of a sudden we're sitting here with Jonathan, who we're kind of convinced probably won't win. We're here with Lindsay, who is a threat. Like, we probably need to get rid of Lindsay at some point. And we're here with Mike, who is a social threat. But if of the 5, and I want to get to someone that hasn't spoken in a while, of the 5, I feel like if the jury were to be bitter, I feel like they would be bitter towards him. And we'll go with Sarah here. Do you think there is a possibility that we could run into a bitter jury tomorrow, or do you think it's going to be happy-go-lucky, everyone's friends to the end type thing? We'll go with you, and then anyone else who wants to chime in afterwards, please do, because I think Mike might be in trouble with that.
Yeah, I definitely think of Mike as at the end the jury's going to be bitter, because he did a bad job of getting too close to people and making them feel like they were on his side. And, he was involved in a lot of their blind sides, where as Marianne was still involved, but she's so likable, and like no one I feel like is bitter with Marianne in any way. And so I think that's one of her strongest characteristics, is that she is social but not too social. And I feel like that was similar to Erica's story, where people weren't bitter with Erica, even though she, voted them out. But why were they not bitter? Because Erica and Marianne haven't gotten too close to where the jury's going to feel bitter toward them with being voted out. So I definitely think Mike's going to get the heat for that. And there will be a bitter jury with Mike, because I think Mike is going to say, I was loyal. And they're going to be like, no, you weren't. And like really roast him at Final Tribal. And I think I really think it might be a Jonathan, Mike, and Mary Ann Final Tribal potentially. And I feel like the jury's just going to roast Jonathan and Mike. And yeah.
John Buckley?
Sorry, I lost the mute button. I agree with Sarah with that. I do think that like Mike has, linked arms with people and skipped down the Yellow Brick Road and then thrown them off into like a grater and killed them. So that's gonna come back to bite him in the ass if he makes it to the end. And I think that his, and I think she does also have a good idea, because me sitting here thinking about a lot of, ever since they introduced the fire making twist at Final Four, a lot of people that lost that, I think the only 2 people I can think of that lost that it didn't have like a massive edit are like Rick Devens and like Sarah and Winners at War. Like they've had kind of like middle of the road, almost nowhere edits. And like the more I think about Romeo, I could see him just kind of, he sits by the fire, doesn't make it, gone, done. So like it's very possible we are going to see the final 3 that Sarah brought up. So I actually think this is all checking out, to be honest.
Gia, is it a sweep in that situation? Is it a sweep if it's Marianne, Romeo, Jonathan? Or do you think that so I'll ask that, and I guess to go off of that, do you think of Romeo and Jonathan, who's more likely to get the pity vote or pity votes?
Listen, $100,000. I take a pity vote for, that's a pretty nice check for a pity vote. But just thinking about the jury right now, I think if we get a Jonathan, Marianne, Romeo final three, it is possible that we get our first woman unanimous winner, to be honest. And I would be thrilled if Marianne becomes part of that elite group of winners. But just thinking about the jury right now, and Erica was very close when Danny voted for Deshawn last season as well, and they were very close, so that vote made sense to me. But I don't see that same type of connection with those players that are left with the jury that we currently have. I don't see like someone like Roxroy, who was close with Jonathan kind of towards the end game. I think he had a lot of respect for Marianne. His goodbye message in the episode he was booted was about how proud he was of Drea and Marianne. So I see him kind of voting for Marianne if Marianne is in the final three. Someone like Drea, who was close with Romeo in the beginning stages of the game, I see her voting for Marianne. Even someone like Lindsay, who had a bond with Jonathan at the beginning, if she's in the end, I can see, or if she's in the jury, I can see her voting for Marianne as well. So I think Marianne has played in such a way, and I think it helps that she was on the bottom in the beginning stages of the merge, that she hasn't really had to burn anyone the same way that some of these other players have. And her social game is very good. So I think someone like Jonathan, who also hasn't really had to burn anyone, is falling short in that area. But I don't see anyone else really feeling like they're not going to vote for Marianne if she is in the final three with that group, or that they would feel like more inclined. And I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's a good possibility. And I think it's a stronger possibility that we get a unanimous vote from her than what I thought Erica's chances were of getting a unanimous vote last season. Honestly, I think if swap Jonathan or Romeo with Mike, I think we still get a chance that Marianne's a unanimous winner because of all the reasons you explained, that Mike has burned a lot of people and might have a difficult time making his case to jury. I do really like this question, though, about Marianne putting a target on her back. I think it's there, but I think the fact that Omar was kind of like on good terms with Marianne when he went out, like he was a good sport about it, does help his case. But I think the thought process is still going to be Jonathan or Lindsay are going in 5, whoever doesn't win immunity.
Ryan, same question.
Oh, what was the question again?
The question that's on the screen.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think that move is going to put a big of a target on her back as it might. I feel like with the players remaining, I still feel like Marianne, although she's a huge jury threat, I still do think she's very underestimated by the people left. I feel like the other people left in the game were also so laser focused on their own agendas. Like Lindsay was so focused on getting Jonathan. I feel like she's not really going to be like paying attention to, what Marianne was doing. She might just be like, oh, what happened? Like Omar went out, and Marianne's like, that's a move I had to make. I feel like Lindsay's going to get over it really quickly and just get set back on trying to target Jonathan. And I feel like same with Mike. And I feel like Mike is, all right, kind of lost track of what I was going to say.
That's all right. Cindy, go ahead.
Okay. I think also like knowing that she has an idol for 5, this is the ideal time to put yourself as this threat, especially if she's confident that she's a badass bitch who can win a fire making challenge. Because even if she's some giant target, she idles at 5, which also, if she's a giant target going into 5, she has the opportunity to do a 4-1 idol vote because no one knows she has the idol that we're aware of, which then is another little tick on the resume for her.
Could you imagine? Like, that would be the most incredible moment.
I have been imagining it for a week. I can imagine it very vividly.
What if they all put it on her and then her one vote was on Jonathan? Wouldn't that be the most poetic thing you've ever seen?
I'd cry.
Like,
I would cry. However, I do think, and this is something that I've thought about, I think her best bet is honestly, if that does happen and she believes she's getting 4 votes, I think her best bet is actually idling out Romeo. Because I think it gives her, it puts it to where there's not someone that is automatically getting dragged to Final 3. I think most people at this point would take Romeo to Final 3 if they won immunity. I think that if she were to idle out Romeo at 5, she would put herself in a position that more people would be willing to take her, and she would be less likely to go into fire making.
True. Very, very true. I think that like the beauty of her relationship with Romeo is that like Romeo was very much under the radar the same way that she was. And I think that it's really poetic that people were like, oh, we can get him out whenever, or we can get her out whenever. And she's found a way to really create a really solid unit where she's calling the shots. And he's built so much trust in her where she can kind of decide where these 2 votes can go in a very, very powerful way with such a small amounts of numbers left.
Yeah.
Okay, so and Joshua, and I want to get to you for this one because we're gonna kind of start straying over to, I don't even know what to call this segment of it, but where do you see, looking back on it, when me and Emily, everyone on this panel at one point or another has had either a strong agreement or disagreement with a season, based off of watching it live and watching it many years later. Do we see this season holding up past 46 or even 50? Do we see this season as a season that we're always going to look back on, or do we see it more as like for me, something similar to Millennials versus Gen X, which has kind of fallen down, throughout the years, or with, I don't know how Cindy and Sarah initially saw China, but as we know now, it's very low on their rankings. Do you think that this is going to hold up down the line?
Yes. I mean, I would say for the most part, it's hard with rankings. People rank things for all different types of reasons. I mean, rankings are fickle, but I do think that the cast has been so good that no matter what, people are going to think pretty fondly in hindsight and remember like all the different people on this season and, smiling, laughing, thinking about all these like, crazy things that happened this season. So I just think at the very least, like, I think what's, what something that's decreased the cast in hindsight is when some of the most important people turn out to be more problematic than we originally knew them to be. And for the main players of the cast and who makes this cast so great, I don't really fear that very much. So I would say that I'm not really too afraid of this season's rankings falling, too far down the list for myself, but probably not for everybody else, no matter where you start with it after the season's over.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, well, and it's funny because a lot of my opinions don't always match with what the critics say, but a lot of the time they do. So, for instance, All Stars, since we have Emily, I am not a fan of All Stars. Emily, Adam, and Gideon from the Buffs.
Obsessed. We're obsessed.
Like and or love All Stars.
We all love it. Don't even talk. Everyone loves it.
I'm not high on All Stars. But I will say that in my rewatches in the last year and a half, 2 years, I found things that I like about it. Mainly the Sheehan episode where she won immunity. That's still like my favorite episode of the season.
It was cute. And it was heartwarming. And it was
cozy. I actually, I felt bad for Rob Mariano at Final Tribal. Like I feel, and All Stars still doesn't change much on my personal list, but every time I rewatch a season, I can find merit to it. Even seasons like Island of the Idols, where every time I watch it now, it's more like, wow, this cast is amazing. 19 of them ish. I say 17, but whatever. This cast is amazing. Let me try to watch this through non-uncomfortable eyes, and it's still like bad, but I can find merit to it. And I feel like with this season, anyone that likes to nitpick things, anything they nitpick are not really, I would hope wouldn't change their view on the season, because I would say that overall in this new era, if we're in a new era, I feel like we're off to a 50-50 start. 41 wasn't as bad as people make it out to be, but we're off to a 50-50 start as far as what we're dealing with. And John, I want to get to you for a second because I know that 41 wasn't the greatest in your head. But what do you think that just everything, you just give a laundry list. I don't care. What is everything, without you actually saying everything, what is everything that 42 did better than 41 so far?
Well, 42 literally, and I think this is the golden thing with Survivor anymore, is it comes down to the casting. Like, we got dynamic personalities that were able to bounce off of each other. And we saw people that were using the shot in the dark early on that I thought was fantastic. The fact that we didn't get it anytime after that was really upsetting to me. I think the shot in the dark is a really interesting twist that, you know, with a little bit of refinement and tweaking, I think it could really become like something really cool. I really, really, because like it truly comes down to the casting. But the one thing that 42 did that 41 did not, that really just sold it for me, and it really never paid off because Lindsay was afraid it was going to get rehidden, was the amulets. The whole amulet twist of like each person. Brandon, why'd you turn off the light? Where 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 sorry. Here. There we go. We're good. We know, and not we know. See, now I don't want to screw up now. So they all know where these amulets are, and they know what happens if they go away. So it's like there's like this truce thing going, but also it's like I want to get rid of you kind of thing so I can get an idol. And if they tweak that and maybe change it up or do something here or do something there, like I think the amulet is going to be something really good moving forward. 42 is the stepping stone that 41 should have been. And 42 turned into, I'm calling it Kagyeon's stepsister. It's like not quite Kagyeon, but like it's kind of Kagyeon with a less problematic potential winner. Cass was robbed. Hashtag. But
so hope you on the other end of that, if you can find it, what is something or some things that 41 up to this point has done better than 42?
Hot take, I really enjoyed seeing more of the Shipwheel Island discussion between players. And I didn't get enough of that this season. I think it filled in with other really good, solid things, but I enjoyed watching these cross-tribal pre-merge relationships form more deeply than I did this season.
I actually didn't notice that, and like it clicked in my head. Yeah, in my head, I don't remember much about 41, which, but one thing that I do remember is Shipwheel Island having those, seeing those bonds being built out there, and I'd have to say, like here, the 42, I remember specific people going there, but I couldn't tell you who they went with. I just remember, getting, because I was crushing on her, I remember getting Lydia's backstory when she went there, and remembering, oh man, she's screwed. She's going home this episode, and it was the next episode or whatever. And I do like that twist. I guess we're calling it a twist. I do like that twist about 41 and 42, the Shipwheel Island thing. The more that we sit here every week and talk about these twists that we want to come back and do come back, it makes me realize there are a lot of twists that they have just kind of thrown at us in 41 and 42 that some don't even register as twists. Like I've never registered Shipwheel Island as a twist. I'm going to call it that. I don't know what it's actually called, but I've never registered that as an actual twist. It's just more of like a cute thing that they go do. But if people were to ask me, would I want that back? I'd say yeah. It doesn't impact the game so much that it's like, okay, why is this here? Like the hourglass twist or the time turner twist, as I call it. And even things like what the die? What
Shot in the dark.
Shot in the dark.
I did it.
I would love to see that come back at least one more time to see if it works. And then after that, it can kind of fuck off. But things like the time turner, things like do or die, things like the, I mentioned this yesterday. The Beware Advantage, I think that they sort of fixed this season at the merge because they added the element of, okay, you don't have to say a dumb phrase. You just have to put your hand in this jar of red paint, and then you get this advantage. I think that if they made that the Beware Advantage both pre-merge and merge, I wouldn't mind the Beware Advantage. I think the problem is the stupid phrase that, we have to sit there every week and listen to Xander say the same phrase over and over again. And it becomes to the point where I have to walk out of the room because I get douche chills. And anyone that doesn't know what douche chill is when you get bumps because you're so anxious when someone is doing something stupid. I get douche chills watching these people say these phrases over and over again that I have to literally remove myself from the room. So if we can take that away, I think it'd be better. So as we start to wrap things up, as we hit the hour, I want to get we're all on the same page as far as who we think the winner is going to be. I want to go around. I want to ask three people. I want to ask about three people. The three people that you think will be back in later seasons. Based off of gameplay, based off of characters, whatever you want to go with it, wherever you want to go with it. Reasoning behind maybe one or two, and then we'll move to the next person. So, me and Emily will go last. So we'll start with Sarah and work our way up on my screen.
I definitely think Omar and Drea are locks to return. And then I could see Tori coming back for a second chance this season. I think she was a good player. And if you read all the Ponderosa articles, everyone at Ponderosa says that Tori is one of their favorite people. So I think she just had a really bad edit, but I think she has a lot of potential. So yeah, I think those are my three.
Hopi?
Yeah, I think Drea's game was so unparalleled in terms of just her precise thought from beginning to end that I think that we have not seen the last of her. Oh my gosh, Omar, I think that he did a lot, and he was making a lot of really, really big moves, and I think he's going to come back and be a Chaos Lord again. So that'd be cool to see. And then I think Mike's charisma is just so charming for people, and as Gia stated, he is a mess, but a mess we love to watch.
Gia?
See, this is a really hard question for this cast because I feel like they cast a lot of characters, and in a good way. I think they had a lot of fun people on this cast that I could see more than three people coming back to a returning season from this cast. I think they had a really good group of people, but I will say I do think Drea and Omar are locks if they decide they do want to come back. I know, super original of me. And I will say, I think Hai is a likelihood to come back. I think he's the type of player that they would love to see play again. And I would also like to see Hai play again. I think seeing Hai 2.0 would be a really fun experience. So definitely those three.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm gonna introduce a new name here. Ever heard of this guy named Jonathan? If Nokia, Sprint, whatever gave out a fan favorite award, Jonathan would hands down win the vote. I don't know if you ever check out Facebook, Coach Drew. The
moms love him. The moms love him.
Judging by
it's
the
bane
little
of my existence.
Yeah, judging by how much you drank out of the bottle, I'm guessing you have checked out the Facebook page for CBS Survivor and how people are so high on Jonathan. So I'm pretty sure if I had to bet, I would say Jonathan is the most likely to return based off all the thirsty moms out there. But I would also say my number 2 definitely Drea, and then if she doesn't win, how are we forgetting about Marianne? She's got to get a vote in here as well. So I know it's tougher to come back when you've won, but I think Marianne is so dynamic that they'll probably figure out a way to get her back regardless.
Yeah. John Buckley?
I'm going to ignore the fact that Josh is probably right, so I'm going to just avoid the whole...
I can't wait for the inevitable episode where it's me, Emily, John, and Josh, and we're just talking about Micronesia, and then just kind of let you guys go at it for the next hour after that. But
honestly, a Zoom call after this. We're going to go. I think for a second, if there is a potential second chance this season, the first person I think it was Lydia. Lydia was robbed at the merge. I said it. It's a merge. There were purple buffs. It was a merge. I think Drea's a lock. I mean, she literally basically almost had a cocktail party with the jury before she stuffed her torch. And I don't know. Let's think of somebody different because everyone's saying the same people.
You can say
I'll jump on the high train. I think High will come back.
Ryan?
Okay, so even though Marianne is a winner, I do definitely see her coming back in the future, whether it be like another All-Star season or like even another winter season, or even as like a mentor on like Island of the Idols too. I don't know. I feel like she's such like a riveting character. She's also very polarizing. I see her being brought back. I also do definitely see Jonathan being brought back. Obviously, with what's happened since the couple episodes ago, that might change depending on how viewers feel, but I feel like production really does like him as a character. I feel like he would have a lot to prove on a return, especially after he's been shown to kind of have this downfall of like not being the best social player. I feel like he can come back and say, you know what, this is what I want to improve my second time around. And then the last one, I'm going to throw in a new name because I have to fight for my boy, but I'm going to go with Zach because I would love to see Zach come back. I feel like I think Zach can come back. If Marianne gets in and good with production, I think she could do him a favor and let him come back. And if Zach somehow gets on the second chance ballot, Reddit will get the votes to get him in. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
There's at least 50,000 votes going his way. So
top vote getter for second chance. Cindy?
I want to say Zach, Marianne, Blood versus Water, but that's not any of my 3 people. I am getting on the Drea train. Love her. And then I want to throw in 2 new names because I think that you guys overlooked one, Queen Lindsay. Especially considering I think she's probably going to be getting a little bit of a robbed goddess edit. I think I could see her coming back in the future. And then because he's my winner pick, Jackson, once he gets his meds all in order with production, I think that he would be a great comeback. I think he had the 20 minutes he was on my screen were amazing, and I loved every second of them, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I think he would be a great person to bring back.
All right, Em, we're up.
Cindy, you stole mine. I know you said that you're not the only one, and you're 100% right. I think that Jackson has a really great shot at coming back for a lot of reasons. I know that we talk about analyzing the edit a lot, and I think that like Jackson's edit of him, of him being taken out of the game was so beautifully done and empathetically done that if he was able to, they were able to work out getting his meds in order or something along those lines, like they would be more than happy to bring him back. And I think that he was actually going to be my winner's pick because of how how well-rounded he is. So I definitely think that he has a chance to come back. Christian, I know that you said Lydia no, but you're dead to me, respectfully, because I really like you as a viewer. I love Lydia. I'm a Lydia Chlamydia stan, and I know for a fact that just because of her popularity alone, especially online, they would definitely consider bringing her back. So I think that she should be thrown into the mix again. And of course, I'll end with Hai. I think that whenever I kind of listen to how the other players analyze their experience on Ponderosa, Hai spoke very fondly of it, but a few other strategists did not. So I feel that Hai has a really high chance of coming back just because he had a positive experience. So I feel like he would agree to come back if it was positive, you know? So those are my top three.
All right, so I have three, but they would all be cast for 3 different seasons. And I'm taking into account that I'm not counting Marianne because she's winning, right? She's winning. So I feel like for a Heroes v Villains cast, I feel like Tori would be a lock for that. I feel like just on screen, if we're just talking on screen, her rivalry with Roxroy and just everything that she did on her OG tribe, I feel like if they were to do another Heroes vs. Villain season and they were in need of another female villain, I feel like Tori would be a lock for that. If they were to do a Second Chances, I'm going to go the Kelly Wentworth route of a pre-merge person making it. And I'm not, I guess Lydia did technically make the merge, so I won't go with Lydia. I'll go with Jenny. I think that Jenny had this big fandom online, similar to a Zach or a Lydia, where I feel like if she were on the ballot, she would get a lot of backing from people. And I feel like if they were to do a Second Chances, she would go on it. As far as any other returnee season, I wish I could put Omer or Hai or any of these other people, but I feel like we all kind of know the one person that production loves, besides Marianne, this season, and that there's a lock for whatever returning. They'll give him a family if he doesn't have one. If they do Blood versus Water, it's Jonathan. I feel like Jonathan is a lock to come back, if anything, because of how he performed pre-merge. I think that it might be more of a Stephanie and Heroes vs. Villains type thing where it's like, hey, just forget about Guatemala. This is what she did in Palau. I feel like with Jonathan, it'll be like, hey, forget the merge. This is a video for the 1,000th time of him carrying his team to victory all of these times. I feel like production, to give them credit, they didn't give him the Golden God edit the whole way through. They did eventually start to show him, his fall from grace. Having said that, I do feel like they really enjoyed him. The whole Mr. Jeff thing is going to end up on a shirt very soon. I guarantee it. So I feel like Jonathan in that aspect. So, any final thoughts from anyone before we say our goodbyes? Anyone can say anything about anything.
Stop putting that into the universe. Stop. Stop saying his name as coming back. Stop it.
I'm sorry, Cindy. It's so real. Like I'm on this Facebook group that I simply have to leave. And I'm sorry to report to you that you're right, Josh. The Facebook moms love him. He'll be back.
Moms love him.
They love him.
I know. Em, I was on with you earlier, and you loved him. And the things they just have to listen to me.
I was 3 episodes in. I was young and naive. You were right. I was wrong.
I saw Ryan and Gia.
All right, hear me out. Roxroy and his wife for a Blood versus Water season.
Yes.
He made a brief cameo on this season when he was talking about how she nags him. I want to see it. I want to see Roxroy's wife do the damn thing. Like a reverse Jeremy and Val situation where she just goes on to win the whole. I'm excited. I have already manifested this in my head. They're coming back. I loved Roxroy. He was so funny. I want to see him and his wife on a future season.
Ryan, I saw you unmuted.
Oh yeah, I was going to say something different, but back to the whole, since Jonathan has been such a hot topic, I just have a question for Cindy. I know you're saying you don't want to put it in the universe, but do you not agree that it's kind of like going to happen, or do you just like really just hoping it doesn't?
I think that if the haters continue to also say it's going to happen, it gives production an excuse to then put him in because people are clearly endorsing it, even if they don't like him. So I think specifically if you are not a Jonathan fan, you need to never bring it up because it's pretty likely to happen. But if they feel even a little bit like people that don't like him would also be entertained by it, then it will definitely happen. And I don't want it to happen. So if you don't like him, don't put it out there.
Can I ask one more question to Cindy too? Just you're a queen, and I'm obsessed with you. This is just from one Survivor fan to another. The only reason that I would want Jonathan back is just so I could have someone to root against, and it's just a very obvious person for me to be like, like, oh, whatever, we'll just watch him crash and burn. It'll be entertaining, blah blah blah. Like, have there been any villains that you've like enjoyed rooting against in any season?
I don't usually enjoy rooting against villains. I'm usually pretty pro-villain. I'm usually very like, I want to see the villain succeed. It's the steps beyond the game that I'm not okay with. But like, I really enjoyed personally rooting for Omer to lose. That was really fun for me this season, especially to see it happen. I thought he was running the game. I thought it was really fun to watch it kind of crash and burn.
John, Josh, Hopi, Sarah, do y'all have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, I guess I have two. Thanks for asking. The first one is I would love to see Jenny come back. I think she was taken too early before she could really do what she wanted. And then just throwing out what Travis put in the chat. I think there's a chance they could bring Daniel back. That man was such a dang mess, but I think he could.
Daniel, he was adorable.
He was an adorable mess, but that man was all over the place.
I loved him. I didn't, but like he was cute. Any of the other three?
I will say, no matter what people say online, Jonathan will still be brought back. Remember, this is the same production that brought Candace back 3 times, and nobody asked her to come back once.
As a hero, no less.
And why was she a hero? I will never get over it.
I asked for her once.
She was a filler queen before a filler queen existed on Drag Race. Both times. Because RC was supposed to be on Blood versus Water. So that's the truth. Another thought I had was we need tribe swaps again. I can't do the, like, we're going down to like a 3-person vote. Like, I don't know if large votes make other people more excited, but like, why don't I want like another 2 Tribes of 9 season? We need a season without 3 tribes. Just period.
Retweet.
Like, it's like, and I know, oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, go.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
So like, I know Jeff just said in a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly that like Shot in the Dark is here to stay. He said that small tribes are here to stay. So like, I'm not expecting any of this to change, but I love watching people freak out when there's a lot of numbers. Like, they want the opposite to happen. I love when people are like, oh my God, there's like 13 people. What the hell do I do? That's entertaining to me. So like, I don't know. Maybe they'll do something up, but they can't keep everything the same.
Can I ask
don't know.
one
Like,
more
I'm curious
question?
what we're going to.
Like, based on that, because I read that same article where they interviewed Jeff and just kind of asked, like, well, what's going to stay? What's going to go? Because I knew that you threw a lot of stuff at the wall, basically blind, just seeing what would stick with 41 and 42. Jeff also said that he feels that it's more likely, it might even be like 100% guarantee, I'm not certain, that they will be announcing the winner and doing the reunion immediately after the winner is declared. And I wanted to know what some of your thoughts were on that, because that's a really, really different twist than anything we've ever seen before.
So I'm okay.
Let's let her go because she already had something she would.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say with the 3 tribes at the beginning, I think the idea of coming into a merge and it not being side versus side is really great with having 3 tribes, but the small tribes are really boring. So they need to have a tribe swap maybe after, I don't know, maybe at 16 or 14. But I think there needs to be big numbers. And I think like you have the shot in the dark twist as well to think about. And when there's smaller numbers and it's like guaranteed that someone's going to go, they know they're going, they're more likely to play the shot in the dark. So that's one benefit of the small tribes. But yeah, like it does get really boring when there's like 3 or 4 people and you know who's going. You can't manipulate numbers. Like it's really boring as a viewer when you know it's going to happen. But I also do not like the idea of having the winner announced right after, because I mean, think about like their mental and physical state. Like, can they fully embrace that moment of winning when they're starving and they can't process what all has happened that quickly, you know?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Sarah that it's the worst. It's the worst decision Survivor's ever made in the history of the show to have the winner revealed on island, because I can no longer attend in LA the live taping and viewing of it. I've only been once, but it was a good time, and I want to go back, but now, you know, it seems like it'll never happen again. So yeah, it's definitely the worst thing Survivor's ever done, for sure. No question. I mean, it's right above Edge of Extinction and you know, Do or Die and but
Power.
Yeah. I'll leave it there.
All right. So thank you all, and I want to say thank you all so much. You know, at the beginning of the show, I said thank you. I said I was going to say it throughout the show. I was really good with biting my tongue with it, but thank you so much for being a part of this. You know, me and Emily really appreciate it. I have at one point or another reached out to all of you, except for Ryan, because you're just starting college. But as far as coming to New York for a party at some point or another, and I really mean that. Like, I really appreciate everything. And Ryan, now that you've gone through your first year of college, if you have the monies, please come on out to New York for a party.
We'll see. Maybe this summer, I don't know.
But thank you so much for coming in. Throughout the summer, I'm going to be hitting all of you up at some point or another to do our different things that we have planned for the summer, specifically our trip down or through the org/LRG community, the ups, downs, and the horribles of it, and my 42 and 42 that I still have to figure out the dates for. But thank you all so much. Thank you for everyone that tuned in today. Thank you to production. It's been a great ride. And Emily, if you have anything?
Nothing really. I just want to thank you all so much. It's been an incredible season, and like it wouldn't have been as incredible if I didn't have so many amazing humans to just kind of bounce ideas off of while we made it to the finals. And I just love you all. That's the whole story. That's the
Emily actually loves all of you. She
it's true.
told me at one point or another she would die for all of you. So like,
it's true.
Just putting that out there. But
Andrew, would you die for us?
I wouldn't. But we will see y'all on the other side.